Good morning. I hope you got your tea or coffee or whatever you enjoy, your juice, and that you have a thankful heart today. That's good. So, we're going to be considering part two because I said Wednesday or Friday would do this, and I think Friday's here. Is that what I want to do? Well, yeah, because we need to get on with this. In our book group that we're our financial breakthrough book group, we're going to be doing more because I'm not going to cover it all here. So we're all just benefiting from this part. Now, mostly there's so many good books on biblical prosperity and prospering with God. And the one we're considering is this one, Get the Skinny on Prosperity, Biblical Principles That Work for Everyone by Duke Clark. So you can pick this up, online or look for it and get it. I wanted to think though, take a minute and back up because it wasn't yesterday. Well, yesterday was Thanksgiving, and today you were thankful, and today we just throw it out the window. It's so this is what they call it, Black Friday. Why do they call it Black Friday? And my thing says it's actually Native American Heritage Day. Well, it seems there's always a uh, new holiday coming up. I mean, just give us a couple of dozen more, and we'll never do any work or get anything done, right? And it was like my thing went off this morning. Yeah, and the mailman was out there at like 6:30 delivering. They have a big day, I imagine, of route work. But being thankful is something that should involve us every day of our lives, not just certain days. And it's a sure Thanksgiving's a time when we are reminded to be thankful and to live with thanks living. But again, it's something that should be everyday part of our lives. Isn't that kind of interesting? That's some of that sun sitting right there. Anyway, okay. So here we have a day of thankfulness, and it's backed up with the day. I don't know. Is it the day of greed? Black Friday, the day of greed. I don't know. But it's like the world wants to convince us that they throw this together. We're really thankful. So now we're going to go out and buy, and we'll be even more thankful. If you or I go out and spend money we don't have to spend on things we don't need, and next year we wish we never bought, that's pretty frivolous. That's really a waste, isn't it, of our lives, ability, and our finances. There's so much more uh, to the body of Christ and needs within the body. I tell you, everything you buy on Black Friday for personal use, well, I don't know. Everything is, no, that's kind of all inclusive. So the things the world tries to promote will generally have nothing to do with the kingdom of life, ministering it and sharing it, do they? It's all about greed, about self-want. Now that doesn't mean you can't go out and get if it's on sale, there's something you want or need, have a good use for, and it's on sale, well, get it. Don't I'm not saying don't, but again, the system is designed to get you to overspend. So you're so in debt, you feel you can't give and be financially in the part of the body of Christ. And it just gets all kittywampus and whacked out. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And I want to get into our subject because, we have some things to do. There was a book we did in our book group by William Arthur Ward, The Miracles I've Seen. The book was filled with financial miracles he saw in his ministry. He was mostly poor. His pocket was empty. But whether he needed 1,000, 100, or 1,000 or whatever dollars, he'd go to God, and God would do incredible things in his life. William Arthur Ward, The Miracles I've Seen. But there are also miracles of healing and provision that he would, I said provision already, really, but we'll say healing and provision together. He'd speak these things out, and they would just happen as he would declare them, and they would see great work, and they'd see cars supplied, they'd see all kinds of things. But I'll tell you, he lived or endeavored to live with God first in our life. And the world does not want you or I to live with God first. And if they can keep us in bondage, some of the things I was saying earlier, they'll keep us from seeing God working because we are trusting in our ability to get the deal when God says he'd already promised to meet all our need. And he didn't say, I'll get you the deal. He said, he'll meet all our need. But, anyways, here's a quote from him. I brought William Arthur Ward up because of this quote. He said, gratitude can transform, and I posted this, gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings, turn routine jobs into joy, and change ordinary opportunities into blessings. I thought, now that's pretty good. So, we're going to get into our subject, which is the prospering financially according to God's promises. Let's see if I get a little further back. I get right there. I'm out of that sun. I think that's where I need to be. Is it rising over the house and in the woods there? I need to be better if I, there. I'm going to make another adjustment right here. It's my main light besides my side lights. And we'll see how long that works. So belief number 2, that we need to, a lie that we may carry, realizing it or not, that needs to be, I want to cast out. It needs to be eliminated from our thinking is my prosperity means someone else has less. You know, if I have more, they have less, and that cannot be right. So the more God prospers me, the less that others are going to have. Well, we want to break that lie today. If that's something someone's dealing with, you could share this, and just that'd be a blessing. All right. So our next belief, I said, my prosperity means someone has less. If I prosper, others will have less. Why is this wrong? Well, we need to look at the basic sense of economics and all. And it's a real simple, and we'll see how this is a lie. Yeah, well, I want it like that. Getting crazy. See your eyes. Oh, I can't see my eyes. You're supposed to see my eyes. Well, we'll do that. Okay, how about if we try that? So my prosperity means someone else has less, and that cannot be right. To explain why this is wrong, we need to look at the basic concept I said of economics, right? And these do help just a little bit. So when we are looking at production, distribution, consumption of goods, and how all these things work out in life, the concept is twisted in most people's mind. Could you imagine putting an oil well in and say, we're not going to run the oil well because other oil wells will do without? It sounds like our current government philosophy, right? We can't be using the oil we have, so we got to go to other countries, or I don't know. I call it wackadoodle, messed up. Someone needs to hit them with a wet noodle and wake them up, right? Okay. So this is a twisted concept in people's minds. They see because as far as production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services, we see it as one big pie, and each person gets a part of that pie, and that's not the way it works. So if my slice of the pie is bigger of whatever's out there to prosper me and bless me, that means someone else gets less piece of that pie, right? Now, it may seem logical, and many political parties and things may use this, and groups and unions may use this as their point of view, but it's a flawed way of thinking, and it's a lie. So we need to recognize that. Let me get my chat up here because I know some of you are in there. Good morning, family. I see you all there. Woo, bless the Lord, oh my soul. Okay. However, this assumption is based on there's limited resources. When you look at the water on Earth, and even salt water can be desalinated, right? Right. Is there enough water on Earth for how long? I think it's going to run out because we're drinking it and animals are using it. No, we perspire it, animals perspire, it goes back up into the atmosphere and goes back. We're never going to run out of water. I might say pure water and all that. Well, if man stops doing the things they're doing to ruin the earth, that damaging concept. But okay, so now you can buy a Berkeley or whatever water filter and take care of the issue. The heavens. When we look at the heavens and the resources, it's pretty unlimited. And as long as we don't cut all the trees and plants down, the photosynthesis and all that, they take carbon dioxide that we breathe out and make fresh oxygen. So it's designed, we need the resources, wood and stuff like that, but man needs to balance if they plant, right? Nothing wrong with planting new trees and all to replace what's being taken out. So again, people get wackadoodle, as I say, on these things. So it is assumed that there's this limited amount of wealth, and the more I take from that, the less it's going to be available for others, that piece of the pie. But how about air? So we were just talking about that. The air will keep making new air. More people here. There's more land that can be used for a lot more land that's quality land that could be used for growing crops and all, right? You've got a yard. You may have a yard. If you've got an acre of land, you could probably grow enough crops to do a lot of the supply for your family and actually feed a number of others. You can just have a small plot, I don't know, a half acre or something, and still grow enough that you'll have enough and enough to share with others out of that little land. So we're not even really using the resources that God has already given us because, to me, in the technological age we're, industrial age, all that technological age we're in, it's like, well, technology will solve our problems. Oh yeah, put your iPad or tablet down and put a seed on it and see how it grows. In fact, these things can just suck hours, days and hours out of our lives. They have good uses, but they can just suck away your life, right? Okay. Your fellowship with your electronic device doesn't truly bring joy to your life. It's fellowship with the saints. All right. So this viewpoint, the only way to amass wealth is to take it from someone else. But this is flawed. This is truly flawed. Why are my... Give me a second, because I'm out of order here a little bit. It looks like I'm out of order, and I may not be. And so just give me a minute. Yeah, okay. This thinking has promoted wars, revolutions, and untold human suffering. Because you've got it, and I want it, I will take it. The diamond wars, people were killed over diamonds in African places. Gold, people will still kill and destroy to get the gold. Whatever it is, because of wrong thinking. Would God, let's think about Adam and Eve. Would God tell them to be fruitful and multiply so that the human race could expend all the resources, and consume them all, and nothing would be left? Come on, right? Wait a minute. God wouldn't tell them to be fruitful and multiply with that and consume all the resources and use it all up, and there'll be nothing left. But that's the current theology or the thinking of a lot of the government and governments. Look, really, the whole thing with Russia and Ukraine is because of this flawed thinking. It's causing wars even now. Yeah. So God did not create a universe, put people and animals and plants and all these things in it with the idea that it was all going to be consumed and run out, and that would be the end of it. Again, water doesn't run out. Air doesn't run out. Of course, again, unless you cut down all the green life, I guess you could say it. So the truth is, here's the truth to defeat that lie. If this is all we get out of this, is that we live in a limitless universe. That doesn't mean we should mindlessly cut down trees and forests, like I said, with no thought of replenishing it. Consume everything without any replacement. God, in His infinite wisdom, has given us infinite resources for everything to work so that things can be replenished, and there is a supply, and that there are treasures still hidden in the earth for generations to come should the Lord tarry, even though I think we really consider that the time is short. And the time from Peter, when it says it was the end times, we are much more in the end times now. So with each advancement in technology, enterprise, and expansion, and it always takes something to support that, but it's always there. Think about this. Glass, one of the major ingredients in glass is sand, like silicone. Well, they're making these super chips out of that silicone. How much sand is on the beaches of the shore? We haven't even begun to touch the resources that are there, have we? We have not. In fact, even in areas where there isn't a lot of prosperity and all, there's actually resources there that could be used that could cause the people to prosper, but we overlook that. If we look for handouts, if we look for, well, just give me a handout, just give me the welfare system and take care of me. Well, that's not very good, is it? All right. So glass is made out of sand. Also, besides silicone chips, glass. Well, look how much there's glass everywhere. Look in the cities, right? Again, is the sand running short? No, we have enough sand to go a long, silicone sand, all that to go a long, long time. Yeah. When electricity opened up, the discovery of electricity, did someone think, well, we're going to use the electricity that's out there, but there's going to be less for others? No, there's enough electricity. I mean, solar power, right? Wind power, they're doing all these things. And I know pros and cons and all that. They can tap power from waves, but generators, hydroelectric plants, even nuclear, which is really considered one of the cleanest things. There's been such an outcry against nuclear, and yet, am I saying that right? Nuclear is one of actually the cleanest forms of energy when done right, okay, when people do it right. So remember George Washington Carver. Some of you know George Washington Carver. The basic account is something like he said, God, teach me about the secrets of the universe. And God says, man, as I understand, maybe that's a little too big. Let me teach you about the secrets of a peanut. And he discovered a couple hundred uses for the use of a peanut, the oil that comes out of it and other things that have benefited people. And people are still growing peanuts, right? And there's so many uses. And I don't expect even all the things he discovered in the oils and things that can come out of a peanut and things it can produce that we're even using it well or efficiently. But who knows? Okay, but here's what has happened from the way people before, to me, technology, and yeah, if I go in the dark, you'll know why. You can see it. Is that before technology, more people were, to me, to some extent, more entrepreneurial, more they looking for ideas, looking for new ways to develop and work the land or whatever. And today, because of technology, people are like, let my technology do the walking. I'm not saying that technology isn't good or beneficial. That's not what I'm saying. But we forgot to believe in that God is working in us and that there are these resources out there for us to tap into and to bring abundance and breakthrough and all that. So people today, for the most part, have stopped looking and stopped thinking. We've dealt with this quite a while back. Most people only think they think. If you really ask me how good a thinker I am, I don't even want to say I'm an average thinker, because I tell you, who's the guy? E equals MC squared. Einstein. Yeah, Einstein. Thank you. So he said real reason he could solve these complicated like things in his area, his field, was that he could concentrate his mind, focus on it, and work through it. The deal is we don't stay our minds that well on the things of God and the things he's done, that he can get the time to sometimes show us things. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're so distracted by all the things around us that our minds do not think that well. I know, again, I didn't listen to that guy again. No, God has designed us to go much further. They say we use, a small percentage of our minds. So there's so much more in our minds that could be processed if we would learn to really stay our minds, hold our minds, consider something all the way through, not just surface consider it, right? Okay. I think you kind of get that idea. Now, today's technology and its demands for profitability, that the way we used to resource is kind of that model, or that way is getting pushed out. Because all we think is, you'd work for this big, you used to work for family companies, and those companies would hire you for life, and you're good to go. And today it's like these big corporations and all that, and their systems, they'll keep you as long as you're useful, and they throw you out the door, right? Yeah, just get me in the long run, to the pension and the good fund, to the good fund, to the retirement or whatever, and those funds. There's something wrong with that, because our great inventors and researchers have often made the greatest discoveries in their 60s, even to their 70s, for sure 50s through 70s. It isn't usually the younger people. The younger people are providing the workforce. Now, I'm not saying we don't have inventors that are in their 20s or teens or things, and they don't produce amazing things. That's not what I'm saying. But the majority is produced by the older people. But if all we think is about, I'm going to retire and sit around and watch the boob tube, well, we're just believing lies and whatnot. So man, there's so many things here, but I'm probably maybe getting low from where I want to be. So we need to put the responsibility for, if we want to accomplish things in life, not looking to others, but we look to God, and we develop our ability to process, to work. There are so many of us that have ability for insights for business, or even inventions and different things, and we're relying on something else instead of getting it till it comes. What was it, Edison's thing? Some said up to 10,000 things before he built the light bulb. I think somewhere I read the most accurate count was like 2,000 something times he worked on the light bulb till it was developed. And again, electricity and all that we considered earlier. Now that we've done that, developed that, is there a shortage? No, well, there is, in a sense, because the grid isn't big enough. We're going to put all these electric cars out there, but there's resources to generate enough electricity. Look, you want an electric car, go get your own solar panels, generate your own, and you don't have to rely on the grid. There's people that do that. They come home, they plug in their whatever car, and they've got it charged, and they go, right? Yeah. Almost like free gas. Of course, the system cost. I know that. All right. So if we want to prosper, if we want to see God working in our lives, it falls on us, not someone else, not the government. It falls on us to believe, to act, to respond, to move, and see God prosperous. We cannot sit around and wait for someone else to do it. We cannot sit around and wait for the right job to come, or just the right circumstances. Right now, what is it? Now is the time. Oh, there's a phrase. What? That tries men's souls. No, I don't know that. Now is the time, the day, and the hour to act, to move, to believe God. Now is the time to rise up in who we're created to be. Bill Gates Or Michael Dell, Bill Gates left college and formed this, he had this dream, right? And he built this computer company that was one of the richest companies for many years. I was looking at a financial thing the other day, and it said if you look at a chart of the 10 most profit, 10 or 20, something like that, most profitable companies 20 years ago, maybe like IBM or something, I don't know. And you look today and they're not there anymore. It's all, Apple or whatever, it's all these other companies that are now in these top earning areas. And it shows us that the systems of men will come and go, but we know trusting in God is something that is faithful and sure for our lives. So if we expand our lives, we see opportunities. We'll choose to see opportunities and go after it. I think a Shark Tank. People always try to go with new ideas, new inventions, and some of those people have become millionaires, right? With a new idea. Some of them pretty darn simple. There was a sponge one. There was a thing in the car to keep your keys from falling down. Yeah, all kinds of ideas. So, how about we increase our value because of what we present and are bringing to the table, you could say. If we are in a job situation working for an employer, are we more valuable to them than we were a year, 2 or 5 years ago? Or are you less valuable? Things to think about, right? It was from the book here. I was consulting with a group of salesmen in Atlanta on how to expand their lives and increase their value to their company. I asked them how many books they had read over the past 12 months. Anybody that had read 12 books over the last 12 months raised their hands. No hands went up. We worked all the way down to 3 books, and a few hands finally went up, so I decided to stop there. Can we expect to grow mentally if we only read a few books a year? How do we expect to expand our minds and worth if we don't put forth any effort? How do we expect to be more valuable, worth more, and thus prosper more if we don't do anything to increase our value? Right? Oh gosh. I was sitting next to an African woman in her mid-40s, and she was talking to a friend. I was thrilled over hearing her story. She had just finished working a midnight shift at the hospital. Her plan was to go home and get some sleep. Later that afternoon, she would get ready to go to school. And that night from 7 to 10, she was taking a computer course. She was so excited talking to her companion because in 2 years, she would have her degree and then be able to get a better job. Now that is expansion. That is someone taking the initiative to increase their value to enrich not only their lives, but all of those around them. So we have to remember God wants us to prosper, right? He tells us that in his word. So how could, when I prosper, God's plan would be that I would rob from someone else's prosperity? No, the Michael Dells, the Bill Gates, these people, the Steve Jobs, when they did this, they brought prosperity to many people, and these new ideas they're happening all the time, right? With new things being brought forth. And sure, anything that can be used for good can also be used for evil, right? We got the evil side. We got cyber attacks and all these things. People using technology for an evil thing. But when we think about good and using them, what God has given us for good, we need to break the molds of limitations. And the specific one we're dealing with is that if I prosper, others will have less to work with. Okay, that sun's moving fast, so I'm moving up. There, that might help. Got to readjust again. We'll get this wound up here in a couple minutes. All right. Listen to this. So we cannot have pinched thinking and understanding and expect our lives to, we can't be narrow-minded. People are so narrow-minded. Usually we get older, sometimes we get more narrow-minded, but we need to have an expansion in our thinking. God help us there, right? So in Jeremiah 29, there's an interesting point to consider. This section is talking about the children of Israel who were taken captive into Babylon. Now, you would think because they were taken prisoners in Babylon, that wicked city, that maybe God would not favor them. Maybe he would even be mad at them. Maybe he would turn his back on them. But remember what we said earlier is the goodness of God that brings people to him. And that's what he wants us to see, right? It isn't the fire and brimstone. It isn't the critical condemning. It's the goodness of God that leads us to him and keeps drawing us to him. So you know what he tells his people? God tells his people that are taken captive to Babylon in Jeremiah 29. He doesn't say, well, you better get out of that city. You better find a way to subvert them. You better, make some coup and break the government. No, here's what God tells them to do: build houses and dwell in them, plant gardens and eat the fruit of them, take wives, beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, so that they may bear sons and daughters, and that you may be increased and not diminished. Right in the place where you think, God, just get us out of here, God is saying he's going to work to prosper them right in the midst of all that is going on. Interesting, right? I think so. All right. So let's consider one more point. So when my wealth grows, so does the wealth and abundance of those around me. Because if I have a business or something, I'm going to hire people, or I'm going to be hiring contractors to fill in places I can't do. I know people that run successful like online businesses and all, and they hire these people. They hire them for a couple of weeks, hours a week, that do some of their online work or research, because it's less expensive to pay them than for them to be deviated from their focus to take care of the little details. Could you imagine? Well, we can't really afford a copier, so we're just going to copy everything by hand. Could you imagine how inefficient that is? I don't trust in a phone, so I'm going to hire some homing pigeons. I hope they get the message where they're supposed to go. Yeah, it means using what we have, obviously. So when our wealth grows, we can hire people, we can pay for goods and services, we can support causes, especially when we think of the things of God. We can support causes and things that help others in their time of need, and they can do the same. Every time we we increase in prosperity, we can help others do the same. Every time, so I'm not taking away from others, I'm actually giving to others. My prosperity does not take away anything. My prosperity builds the prosperity in the community in which I live, expands the prosperity of all those around me. So we've got to let go of this belief that my prosperity means someone else has less or does without, because it is a lie. Okay, so that's it. So your prospering, my prospering, means I will have more to give, to help, to bless, and to free others, and do more of the working of God's calling in my life. And what does it say in John 15? That God wants fruit to abound to our account. And not only does he say fruit, but he says much fruit. The Lord said, our Lord Jesus Christ, that God's will is much fruit abounds toward your account. Well, if we have poverty-minded thinking, or this lie that if we prosper, others are going to have less, so we don't want to do that, we are believing a lie of the enemy, and it's keeping us defeated. So that's part 2 of, I believe, 5 lies we have that need to be broken so we can step into God's heart, plan, and working forth. And as Sue said, prosperity is a gift meant to be shared, not hoarded. Give, and it shall be given to you. What a promise of God. So no fear in prospering. I have challenges. I have things. We all have challenges, but never give up. What was it? Never give up, never say die. I don't never quit. I don't know. But keep reaching for God's best, keep growing in your learning and understanding, because the more we have in seeking God and seeking knowledge that is useful in this world, we actually bring to ourselves the opportunity to open more doors, more opportunities to help others succeed. And as we rise up, we lift others. And so prospering is good because it only not only benefits you and your family, it'll benefit others and help them prosper too. Have a glorious day with your Father, living with thanks living, which is real Thanksgiving.